Ahoy there, mateys, and welcome back to Windrose. Today, I've built this apothecary for my pirate town to house all of the alchemy crafting stations to make all of my potions, etc. And I think it turned out pretty damn well. I'm very happy with the result of this house. There's plenty of like really cool and interesting features, especially here on the front, including the round window display there, the little shallow roof part in the front, and then of course the roof itself on top of the building just adds a lot of life and character. And then actually, because of the landscape, I had to build this quite raised up, but that allowed me to build this cool staircase in front of the building, which definitely is also a really nice feature of the build. And then I also tried to add in, of course, as many little details everywhere. Especially really happy with all of the additions to the roofs, but also just having these rocks along the side, which was already there, is quite nice. It does start to feel more and more like a pirate town with building these dedicated structures for different purposes. And even here at the back, we have a decent amount of detail and a little chimney bellowing smoke, and we even have a little garden back here, kind of to simulate like we're growing our own little herbs back there. But yeah, it's been a very fun build, another really nice addition to the town, and I think it looks quite cool. Yeah, just a lot of things going on, a similar style to the blacksmith I built before, but then just slightly different. So as always, I'll take you around for a quick tour of the build. I've done a little bit of the interior so far, and afterwards I'll show you exactly how to build this if you want to add this to your own building projects here in Windrose. But as always, if you enjoy seeing these types of build and you want to see more of them, make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and of course feel free to leave your suggestions for future builds down in the comments below. So we've taken a pretty extensive look here on the outside, but I've actually done a little bit of the interior, not fully because I'm still waiting to unlock some more cool interior decor. But we have a really nice fireplace, we have plenty of herbs all around the place, of course, to symbolize this being the alchemist and you know, doing all of the potion brewing here. So we have the crafting table right here in the corner, adding some life to the place. And then we actually have this little work area as well, which is looking quite nice with all the crafting stations. I added the cooking pot here just because it looks quite nice. But yeah, just having the herbs around and all of these books and scrolls just makes this area feel quite complete already, with the nice crafting station here in the middle. Probably would want to have like a nice table with some chairs around down below, and for the rest it's pretty well done down here with the things that I have unlocked so far. And then upstairs there's a little bit more room, of course. We have a few nice windows for views of your surrounding structures, and I've made a bedroom in here so that the worker that lives here can also sleep here. I don't know if they need to sleep, but just to make it look like they have their own bedroom, and they'll have a nice view from this window from the rest of the town too. So yeah, definitely has been a pretty fun build. I decided to also add in some final beams here at the top just to make it look even more cool and detailed on the inside. But yeah, it's a very fun build. I'm really enjoying Windrose and building in Windrose to build my own little pirate town. And I think this is definitely a really good addition. So yeah, I really hope you guys like it as well. If you do, please don't forget to leave that like. It really helps me out, really supports the channel, and I very much appreciate it. And of course, as I said, if you've got any future suggestions for future builds you'd really like to see me do next, make sure to leave them down in the comments below. And who knows, I might be building that after this one, although I'm going to be building a tavern next. I already laid down the plans, so that's probably going to be my next build if I can get enough resources together. But yeah, there we go. That is my apothecary. I'm very happy with the result. I hope you like it. So let's jump into how to build this one for yourself. Okay, we're going to start with a foundation. For me, I'm building this up the rocks just because of what my landscape looks like, but you can build this pretty much anywhere. You do want to raise up these stones a little bit if you can. So this, I think I'm gonna make 9 long just to see what that's like. I think that's 9. And then I'm gonna make it 4 wide. I think that should be big enough for the main shape of the building. Of course, we're gonna have some like little additions here and there, but I think that's gonna work. So we'll just make this 9 long too. Get this going across. There's something on the ground here. And should just about fit in here. There we go. So that's a 4x9 shape. And then we're going to go in by, let's go down here, by 2 before we add in just a very small addition here. A little 2x3 just sticking out the front. For me, of course, is going to be quite drastic because of the landscape that I have. But if you build it on a flat area, it shouldn't be as crazy. And then, of course, we can also start filling in the rest of this so that we have all foundations looking quite nice. I think that's a pretty decent start out here. And then I think I want to make a little addition. So it's going to look a little different, of course, if you've built this barely above the ground. But that's why I said I would try to raise it up a little bit. I am going to add just a little something here. So we leave this one open and the one on the corner open. And then we're going to just add in these triangles. Trying to build them out like so, that we just have a little bit of a bigger area. Then we're actually going to take out windows. And then we'll have a window here, a window there, and a window over here. Just to basically, well, build almost like a little shop front where you have these beautiful little windows on display, which I think is going to be quite nice. And actually the straw roofs do have these triangle bits, which should help us make like a little roof for this. And then especially if I use these ones, I should be able to kind of make this look complete. There we go. That should line up with the building itself. I think for this build it makes more sense to use mostly wood, but I'm gonna use this little stone wall at the bottom just to give it a bit of a more sturdy foundation before we go into the different materials. So I think here for this end of the building, I just want these going across from one side to another. I think we want the same here at the back, because we're not going to add in any doors right there. Then we can also have this going across, and the same over here, and then this part too. Over here I might want to add in a door, so I think I'm going to have a door right there on the corner. And we'll have these going all the way across too, just to kind of connect up the different angles. But I think that works. And then I want to take out my beams and actually raise this up by 5, I think is what we want to do. So slightly higher than we would normally, or I've been doing for normal builds. Just because of the way it's all going to line up. And it actually lines up with this little side addition. So I think that works. Pillars in place. And then I do think I'd want to have some beams going across like this. So we're going to do that. I'm also going to add pillars in the front here. But I do think over here I'm probably going to keep them a little bit lower. Because I don't think this part of the building we're going to raise up too much higher than the other parts. So let's just keep that pretty low for now. And then we can continue with all these beams. And then we want to rotate them, of course. There we go. Oh, not there. Want to have them over here. Perfect. And of course, all the way across the back here. Awesome. So that's a pretty good start to shape up the building a little bit. I guess we can also add in our front door, which I think is just going to be, it's either going to be this one or that one. I guess with the little opening in there, it's quite nice. And then if we have them like this, should look pretty good. Of course, we're going to have to build a little staircase to get down, but I think that's a pretty nice start in general. Then we can actually take out our beams again because we can actually shape up the building a little bit more like we've done with most of these builds. I think having that diagonal beam in there is going to look pretty nice. Going to do the same thing there. And then if I rotate it all the way around, we can have a beam here. Can't have it there. I would love to have it here. So I'm going to add this in. And once I have that, I should be able to add in my pillar coming down. And for me, of course, it's in the landscape. You would just want to have the whole pillar come down as we've done everywhere else. I think that's pretty safe like that. I think what we do in this side where we have this addition is just build up those pillars again. And then over here, of course, we can have those beams coming down the sides. We can line them up here. There we go, just to give those walls a nice start. And then I guess we can start filling in these walls with the limestone walls. At least the corners to begin with. Oh, for me it's doing a little bit of difficulty trying to get this all to be filled in because of my landscape, but that works as well. Yeah, preferably we just use the bigger walls, of course, and then we can rotate it around just to fill in these corners. And then this we can also just fill in like so. We can fill in the top here. Take out our smaller walls around the doorway, so we have that filled in. And over here, I guess what we could do is probably just follow this shape with our beams first. There we go. And then we can kind of just fill in those remaining walls. There we go. Yeah, I think that totally works. Just easy enough. Then we actually want to take out our pillars. We can have the pillars after these first walls. There we go. Getting some more structure and character into the building. There we are. I think that looks quite nice. You could even add, I guess, a little bit of detail here if you really wanted to. We could still have those diagonals meet up with the door. I think I quite like that. It just ties everything together a little bit more than using the default things. And then I think here for the top walls, we're just going to connect the top. We can use some smaller walls along the sides here. And then I think I probably want to use these beautiful windows. Does that mean I want to open that up? Maybe I do, because it looks kind of awkward with having the beams go all the way. So maybe just have those instead. But I do like these fancy windows, especially since we already have them there as well. I think that kind of matches this aesthetic now, that these have just got more of these fancy windows looking off to the sides. I think that is a pretty good start for this part of the build. Then here for the back, I think we're going to start with some of these beams. We're going to bring them back up from where they just came down. So like that. Then we can also fill in some of our walls, of course. There we go. Then I think we're going to just have a window there and a window here. And then if I take out the beams, that means this could be a beam. And that means that there could be another beam right there. And then we'll have pillars coming up here. I guess there doesn't have to be a pillar down there because it's not a corner. So we don't need to go all the way necessarily. There we are. I think that looks quite nice. We can fill in this wall. And I think for these windows out the back, I am going to use those. But I guess it also makes more sense to break up the beam and just have these windows right there. I think that makes for a pretty nice start here for this little build so far. Also seems like I've not stretched out these beams far enough to reach the ends. There we go. And then to fill in the walls, I think we can just fill in these sides with the full walls. We can start with those corners too. And then I definitely think we'll have a window here in the front. I think we're going to go for the simpler window for this little addition. Just like this. And then for the beams, I guess this would just be a simpler version, like a smaller version of it all. But I do think this works. So we're just going to have those steep beams coming down from the corners, so just like a miniature version almost of what we normally have. Okay, and then I guess we'll build the front of the building first. I think it's gonna look quite nice if we extend this just around the edge, just to give it a little bit more. And I don't actually think that I want another floor here on the front. So instead, what I want to do is kind of fill up this with some nice wooden walls. And then we should just be able to get this all going just like that. And I guess we could have some nice decorations out there on the front. Take out the roof, because I do think I'd want to start with these. And then of course we can add these beautiful middles here. So we want to make sure that we snap those in first. That should line up with the rest of the building. And then what I could do, because right now, I mean, I guess it already kind of has an overhang, so we don't really need to change much. Although I say that and it won't let me place anything down, so maybe if we do this can I delete this? Is this gonna... Is it snapped to the wall? I think it is. All right. So... okay, I guess that snap point worked. There we go. We can fill in this. And then finally here at the back, the final pieces there. And then actually here at the front, of course, what we want to do is add these beautiful end pieces. So I think if I add this one right over there, that's a good start. And then I should be able to get that going, although that does stick out a little bit more. So maybe the second one just needs to go that far. And I guess on the other side, something like that should be the right shape. Why is it not letting me? There we go. That's the one I need. And then the final bit, fill that in like this. So yeah, that should give us a pretty nice looking roof. Let's actually see what that looks like. And then I think we can add in some supports here along the front, making sure that looks nice. We can also add in those beams to the side of the building. There we go. So yeah, it just kind of sticks out a little bit forward, which I think is quite nice. And then of course we can add in some slight details like this just underneath the window to make it a bit more interesting. And we could even add like decorations like this, just like this here, just to make that a little bit more interesting, I suppose. There we go. Yeah, that's not too bad. I think we actually also do want to have some beams going across the bottom part of this addition that we build. There we go. And then I think we also want to have shallow beams to kind of support the whole build. And if we place one here in the middle first, we can actually make one go back down into the building, just to know that this is properly supported. And I think this angle already looks quite nice like this. Obviously, depending on how high you placed it, like for me, it is quite high. So I think that means I probably want to extend it a little bit. Why is this snapping into those other pieces? There we go. So we just want to extend this a little bit, I think. Although I quite like the little half snap point that it gives me. I don't know why it gives me that, but that is quite useful. And then I think you just want to kind of build a staircase coming down. Of course, this would probably be enough anywhere else. You probably don't need to go any further than this. But for me, of course, I do need a little bit more. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lean into the staircase and just make it a nice feature in the town. And just have this continue a little bit further. Which I guess is the advantage of having the build raised up this high. Now all I need to know is there actually a way to fill in these sides? Because there's not really any pieces, not any wall pieces that fit in here, which is quite weird. Because this is too steep. I guess we can make a makeshift one. But it's still a bit weird. So I guess that would be it. Don't know why there's not any. I think they're adding more pieces soon. So hopefully we'll be able to fill in the sides then. Because all of these pieces, that just really doesn't really fill in the sides of my walls. So I guess for now the best thing would be these parts. So yeah, that's not great. It's not great. But I guess those pieces would be the best for now until they add the proper pieces. I guess we can hide them a little bit by adding in some nice beams going along the side. There we go. We can make this look a bit nicer. And for the pillars, of course, we just want to add them in like so. gonna give a bit more structure to this all. There we go. One here at the end, and I think we can use the thinner version to kind of connect these up again. There we go. Yeah, getting these railings in place. The thin one here and over there. And then of course we could add in a few of these thin ones in between. We could even add them here to make it more like a support, maybe. There we go. That should look quite nice. Of course, my stairs is probably a little bit more elaborate than most of you would need, unless you've raised up the foundations quite a bit like I have. But I quite like it because it kind of loops around, adds a little bit of motion to the village. And it's kind of going to create like a little square over here. What I think I'm going to make it into a nice square, maybe a fountain. I'm going to keep this bit of greenery, add some plants. Probably not these banana trees. Well, maybe a few. Yeah, I think we can make it into something quite nice. But with this, we have a nice way to enter. And I'm pretty sure that we have most of this first layer complete then. All I really would want to do is make sure that we add in these beams. Just as some nice supports. And then I guess we can finish these walls, or do I not need those? I don't really know what I would need. I guess you would double up on these first, and then we would still need one of these smaller ones in the corner, I think. There we go. So that means this whole first layer should now be connected. Oh yeah, we can also get rid of our little stair there that we needed to use. But yeah, for most of this, I think that's the first floor. Although here at the back, I suppose we could add a few details here too. By going into decorations and then probably adding these bits on top of the roof like that. Again, just to add some details. We don't need to do that for these windows because they have plenty of details by themselves. And I think looking at these pillars, at least for me, kind of depends on how high you've raised your foundations, but for me, I think I want to connect these builds up by making sure that I have this beam going across the bottom at the same time, because otherwise it kind of feels weird, the transition, I think. So I'm just gonna add these in along the bottom layer. There we go. And I think that's just gonna tie everything together for that first bit. And then we can start to focus on adding the next layer. There we go. I think that's quite nice. Awesome. Okay, and for the inside, of course, we'll need some kind of staircase to go up to the next layer. So I think that's just what I'm going to do right here. Make sure that we get to that next layer. And I do think that I probably want to create a little ledge around it. Oh, did I run out of wood again? Okay, we can continue the edge here. I think this is just gonna give it that extra bit of depth for the next layer. I guess we do run into some issues here with the roof kind of poking out. But I guess it is what it is. We just want to create this little ledge for sure. And then I think what we want to do is have beams going around the sides too. Yeah, this little bump we're just gonna have to live with, I suppose. That's not gonna go away. And I'm not going to raise up the first layer any more than we already did. Oh, damn, I placed a bunch of things there. The dragon can be very nice, but sometimes it goes a bit crazy. There we go. That's gonna make this next layer look nice and supported. There we go. All the way across from one side to the other. And then I guess it's time to build up the walls for the next layer. And the next layer is going to be the final roof layer. So we're gonna start with having these. Oh, jeez. Don't want to fall down. I mean, I didn't give myself a lot of space here. I do think we want to have another window in here. But we can have that right there. Awesome. So far, we're doing a pretty awesome job of making sure that we just use as many of the big walls as possible. In fact, even here at the top, we can add another one before we add this in. And then flip it around for the other side. I think that looks good to me. And that means we do this again over here on the opposite side of the building. There we go. So yeah, that just gives us new snap points. Awesome. And then we can start to fill those in. One more big wall here. And then the final bit. There we go. Bring those back down. And then we can add in our windows. I do think it's going to be these windows. So one over here. And one on the opposite side. That should be quite nice, I think. And then I guess it would be quite nice to have some interruptions in the roof, because otherwise it might be a bit boring. So I think here on this side, I'd most likely want some addition over here, maybe. I think that would be pretty nice. Does it need to be any bigger? I mean, it doesn't need to be too big, right? Just enough to create a little bit of a new front here. I would kind of like it on the opposite side too. But the most logical place would then be in line with these. But I guess it doesn't have to be. Like, it could be here. Something like that. I guess it also could be smaller, right? Like, it doesn't have to be that big. Maybe just like this, or maybe just a small one, a bit offset with this roof here. I think that could be nice too. All right, let's fill in the floor, because it's gonna drive me crazy not being able to just walk around here without falling down. Why is that not lining up? I guess the way I've done the stairs is actually not in a great position. So I'm gonna move the stairs just by a little bit to make sure that we don't have to do anything weird with the floors above. So instead of here, it's going to start right there. And then everything should just be lining up. So now if I bring this over, yeah, there we go. That is going to work just fine. And then hopefully that is enough room for the staircase. So I think the bottom is basically going to be like the shop slash the workplace where we'll have some of the alchemy stuff, because that's kind of what I'm going to put here in the apothecary, I think, and some herbs and stuff. Like the potion making basically is going to go here. And then the top area can be a bed for whoever owns the shop and stuff like that. It's going to get dark though. Okay, so for the staircase, I think we just want to add a few details in. So at the end, I'm going to have some of these bigger beams just as supports. And then in between, we're going to have a few of the smaller ones. I think on the side of the stairs, I actually like to have a few more. Looks a little bit nicer in my opinion. And then we just need to get these beams in place. I actually also want to make sure that I add them along the sides over here, and should be able to connect that all up before we add in the connective beams at the top here. There we go, just for a nice and easy staircase up to the next layer. Now for this part, we just want to start making a little wall here, which I think is going to be quite simple. We're going to start with some full walls in the edges, but then have this one here so that we can have another window up here. And I've run out of wood again. So we can add in a window right here. And then we should be able to just start shaping up the rest of this building. Just filling this in around the window. There we go. And then a big wall up there. And we can just fill in the remaining parts. There we go. And we should be able to quite easily connect that up with the roof, but still create some interest here at the back of the building with a little additional window. We can also, of course, make something nice over here on this side where we should also be able to fit in a window. That's kind of like the basic requirement, I would say. So that looks pretty nice. Then with the walls, I think we should be able to manage. Just have those in there. And this one is going to be slightly smaller, but I think that is good because it adds even more interest because it's not all the exact same thing. But again, we should be able to match that up with the existing structure quite well. So then we're going to take out our roofs. Currently, this is the only variant we can use, but hopefully, I think I did see something in the upcoming update notes that they posted that there's going to be like more new pieces to fill in the gaps. So maybe all those pieces that I've left out, they might be adding. So hopefully all of the building sets will have different types of roofs, etc. That would be really cool if they did do that, and especially if they did do it this quickly. Okay, so basically we want to start to try and match this all up with each other. There we go. We should be getting pretty close there. And of course we can kind of just fill this all in. Let's actually add these in too. There we go. Okay, so that should kind of be the basic shape. And then with adding in these pieces, we should be getting pretty close to just filling in the actual structure. Actually want to have a full roof over there. There we go. I think we've almost done it. We just need to add these pieces in here. And then we can take in these corners, add those in, and add those in on the opposite side. Awesome. And then finally, we just need to make sure to fill in the final gaps. But if we just rotate one of these that should line up pretty well. And there we go. We have a little addition there on the back of the building. And we want to create something similar here on the front. So let's take out these roof pieces. For now, let's just bring this up and close by. And I guess this layer already we can just fill in all the way across. There we go. Do I want to have any addition here? I guess we could, if we wanted to, have another addition. Just to make it even more interesting. Like we could have one of those going on. Maybe even a little bit further. There we go. We can have our beams across the side there. And then we can start filling in these walls. I guess the real question is if we're gonna be able to snap this together. We should be able. It's gonna stick out a little bit. Why did it stick out here, but it didn't stick out there? There we go. Maybe I snapped it wrong. And then we just have the final little piece to fill in. Then we want to have some beams going across the bottom to connect that back up, of course. And then I guess the real question is, what kind of window would you want to have here? But maybe just something like this, which is a little bit more open, just like proper windows. And then we can just fill in the rest of these walls. There we go. I think that could totally work. We could even add them, open them, of course, but I think closed they should look fine. Now, of course, we still have this bit of the roof to take care of, but it should be pretty easy. So there we go. Those should work. Add in these little pieces here. And then the final bits of the roof. Like so. And then we can just fill in the corners here. Fill in the corners there. And I think that makes for a pretty nice inside, at least. I mean, we could add some details, etc. Beams if you wanted to. But if we take a look from the outside, we definitely want to have some depth, of course, still to the roof. But I think basic shape, that is pretty nice. So let's get ourselves up to the building so that we can start adding in some details. So first of all, I think here along these sides, we just want to add those things in. We should be able to add those along the side as well. And then, of course, we can start adding in our details over here on this front of the building. And there we go. I think that looks quite nice. We do still need to fill in these sides, actually. Let's see. We fill in that, and can I jump to that? Oh, I can. There we go. That will fix that little part of the building. I do want to add some details on top of there, though. So what I'm going to do is take out my beam again. And I want to have this come forward like this, and then I actually want to rotate this one around and add a supportive beam underneath just to give a little bit more interest to the end of that roof. And then speaking of roofs, of course, we want to make sure that we go along the entire side of the roof here. All the way down. Gonna have to do that on the opposite side too, of course, but I think for now, if I just continue going up a little bit, I should be able to add in this, and then we can add in that support. Of course, we're gonna need to have that go all the way through, but at least for now, for the front of the building, that is already looking very promising. I think that looks very nice. We just need to fix that up here for the back of the building. So I think for now, we're gonna start with a little bit of roofing going up here so that we can add in this edge. And we also want to make sure that we add in those final pieces. Oh, I think I was almost there. There we go. So yeah, that's the pieces along the side of the main building. And then we should be able to bring this out here. Awesome. So yeah, that adds some details along this side. And then I think what I want to do is kind of just build a little pathway along the side here. And then rotate this around. Make sure we bring this all the way to the end. There we go. We need to go a little bit further with these walkways. And then we should be able to add in the details along the side there. Let's see if we can add them in on the opposite side too. Oh yeah, we can. Oh, dropped down. That wasn't really my intention, but I should be able to build my way up again. There we go. That should give us the ending of the roof here. It also means that we need to extend this beam just by one more. And then we, of course, should be able to add in our supportive beam. There we go. There we are. That should get us all the details for the roof. I think that is gonna do. It's kind of hard to see. It's a bit in the shadow back here, but yeah, I think we've got a pretty nice looking build. And then what we definitely also can do is from all of these pillars here along the side, we can add some supports, add some in the middle here too. There we go. So just some of these little details along the sides. I'm gonna add them in like so. And then over here, the same ones. I don't know, can I? There we go. Of course, we already have them here, but should be able to add them in there too. And then, of course, on this side of the building, we should just be able to go all the way along the side. That will just add some extra supports, which will definitely add a lot of character to the place. Then I always really enjoy adding in a few things like this underneath the windows, just because it adds a little extra depth, I think. So we're just gonna see where it would make sense to have it. I think there it does make sense. And then over here, I think it's gonna be this one again. There we go. I think I really love this angle. This angle is definitely looking very, very cool with all of those different layers to the roof. This side has a lot going on, which is definitely really nice. And potentially I would like to make something out of the back. I don't know if I'm gonna have enough space. You might. But what I want to do is kind of have like a little area for growing crops. So I guess what I want to do is extend these beams. And I guess I'm going to have to adapt here because I can't do it fully. But those should suffice. I'm not sure if I want to... Probably want to do it here because otherwise they're going to be... It's going to be quite a small building. There we go. So yeah, not all of this is going to be viable for me because of my landscape. But yeah, you would kind of have one more beam, I think. And then potentially we would have one coming back in as like a counter support. And then I would probably have these beams go across from one to another. There we go. And have that going as far as we can, just to kind of create some supports. It's not like a proper roof. You could fill in a roof if you wanted to, but I think it also makes more sense maybe to leave it open so there's like potentially sunlight coming in, depending on where you build it, of course. Maybe I'd like to add in like a few extra beams. Maybe we'll do the thinner ones. I don't know. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, that could work. Yeah, so we could have some of these thin beams in between, kind of to build like almost a little roof out here. And then I guess the real purpose of this all would be, I don't know if I want to necessarily snap this here. But maybe if we turn off snapping, we can kind of line this up as you prefer. Then we should be able to turn off or turn on snapping again. And basically we could have like a little garden patch out here. Of course, for me, it's kind of just seeing how well my my landscape is gonna allow me to do anything here. There we go. So we just kind of fill it in all the way back there and a little bit here in the front. But the idea is just that you can have a little patch of a little bit of a farm, a herb farm almost, at the back of the build. I think that would be a really fun addition. Of course, I'm kind of stuck here with my landscaping, but I think this works. And yeah, you could plant some things in the back garden, basically the herbs, etc., that would be used kind of in a role play way. I don't know if you can actually grow, like, I guess you can't really grow the healing herbs, or at least I've not found a way to do it yet. But yeah, should give you a decent amount of space in here to make a very cozy little apothecary with all your alchemy things, making your potions here. I guess it's not really... I mean, it is kind of an apothecary, I guess. Making potions feels right. And there's a lot of really cool herb decorations as well, I think. Like, you could go crazy with these things and stuff. So yeah. I think we could do a lot of really nice things with those herbs. So if we just have a few things like that lining up, I think that would make for a very cozy build. And of course you could go full crazy with that and make a proper little apothecary and then turn the top into a bedroom, I guess, for the owner of the shop. And yeah, build something cool up here. But I'm quite happy with the result, especially the roof. I think turned out really great. Didn't really have a proper idea for the roof before I started. But looking at it like this, I definitely quite like it. Now we can also add in a fireplace. If I have enough space, or resources mostly, I could add in a fireplace. And it probably makes most sense to have the fireplace down here on this side. Let's see. Do I have enough stuff? I do have enough stuff. They are rather expensive. So I'm just gonna turn off snapping and try to place it where I want it to be. I think that looks quite good. I'm gonna have to extend this through the whole building, of course, and I'm also gonna have to take out that temporary torch I placed. So I should have snapping on now. Is that gonna... There we go. Snap to the top there. So we would have a cozy fireplace down here. And we should be able to raise it up. Is that not gonna... It is gonna snap. And then if I add... Oh, actually, if I add this, I might not need to snap any angles. So yeah, that's gonna be like the chimney going up to the top. I think you can unlock the fireplaces at the smugglers, by the way, in Tortuga, if you wanna get these. Yeah, there we go. We got a little smokestack coming out the top. Look at that. That just adds a lot of life. I've been adding those in now that I've got those unlocked. And it's a really nice addition to your buildings. Just adds a bunch of life and character. I love the light coming from all the windows too. I think this is a very, very cool build. So finally, this is the result of our hard work. And I think this has turned out to be a very nice, cozy little apothecary building. Perfect to add to a town like I'm working on. And I'm really happy with some of the new little details that we added to this place. But basically blending in quite a few different things, like the little round window here in the front is really cool feature. Then this more shallow bit is also actually pretty nice. And of course the whole building on the top, especially from this angle, the top layers in the roof are very, very cool. But also the higher builds, just because of the landscape, actually worked out in my favor. Like I love this little staircase in the front of the entrance, and just the whole build blending together with the landscape behind it, I think is quite cool in general. I love these rocks still poking out. It just adds a bit more character to the place than building everything on very flat ground. And even though I didn't have a lot of space for a garden back here, I do think it works. And I've planted some crops in here just to make it look like it's being used for that purpose. But in general, I think a pretty cool building. The little smoke bellowing from the chimney as well is definitely a cool addition. And I've done a little bit of interior to already bring in some atmosphere on the inside. I'm still waiting to unlock a few more things for interior decorations because I still don't have everything that I would want or need, but definitely having the fireplace right here adds a lot of character in. Got a stack of wood right next to it. We of course have plenty of herbs hanging about and just adding a bit of life to the place. We've got a little bit of a storage cupboard right here when you enter. Then this little area has turned out quite nice. It's not quite a kitchen, more where I guess they would be brewing up the healing potions. So plenty of herbs and ingredients all over the place. A lot of books and scrolls off to the side. Maybe that's where they find the recipes. And then this table right here in the middle too. Definitely looking quite nice there. Then we have a bit more storage over here with some different herbs. I want to have like a bigger table with some proper chairs. I don't have those yet, so for now it's just empty. But then we have the crafting table right here in the corner, which I think definitely works with this round bit, since the table kind of has that rounder shape as well. So makes it ready for quite a cozy interior here below, I think. But then if we take the staircase all the way up to the top, it's still a little bit empty in here. Didn't really have too much. Again, still waiting for a lot of the decorations. I did have a new fancy bed unlocked, so we have a bed for the bedroom in here. Again, a few more things to read, and a spyglass right there in the window looking out down into the docks. For now, of course, the tavern will be there in the future for me. But yeah, definitely happy with the way that this whole building turned out. I think it looks quite cool indeed, and it's going to be a great addition to my pirate town, and maybe also yours if you decided to build along. But even if I just was able to inspire you for your next build project, it has been worth it in my opinion. Anyway, guys, that is going to be it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And as always, of course, if you enjoy seeing these Windrose builds and you want to see more, make sure to leave us suggestions that you would like to see next down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next video or the next stream. For now, goodbye.